right. So where are we going in all of this? What is the final phase of this war that Trump is preparing for? We began with 40 days of active bombing, right, starting on February 28th. That was then followed by roughly, 100 days of stalled negotiations going back and forth. And then 2 weeks ago, we've had the resumption of the bombing, 13 straight nights. Up until now, none of it has managed to stop what's left of the missile barrages on Gulf states from Iran, right? So they're radically limited for sure, right? Iran's been hitting UAE, they've been hitting Saudi Arabia, they've been hitting Kuwait, Bahrain. Again, they're limited. There's not a lot. It's nothing like we saw in the first week of the war, right? When they were literally sending out hundreds of missiles. It's little tiny skirmishes here or there, but they do still keep coming, and they are effective. It's at least a semblance of being able to project power. And none of it has been able to resolve the fate of Iran's remaining enriched uranium stockpile. Nothing we've been doing thus far has been able to. They remain thoroughly recalcitrant on their remaining uranium. At least the IRGC hardliners are. They've been able to more or less sideline the more conciliatory negotiator wing. Remember, this is a regime in factions. There is no single regime. There are multiple factions, and they're all competing with each other. One minute, literally 1 hour, they're saying, we're done. We want to come to the table. The next hour, no, we're not. We're never done. We're going to go down fighting, blah, blah. They have no coherence. So that's why there's literally no coherent regime to deal with. So where is this all going? I think that the war historian Victor Davis Hanson is right on with this. He describes the whole entire standoff as a battle of pure strategic patience between the two sides. So Trump wants to permanently deny Iran nuclear weapons capability. He wants to deny their missile reach across the Gulf, and he wants to deny their control of the strait, all the while protecting his very thin congressional majorities heading into the midterms this fall. So this is where some people bring in a 4 or 5D chess, because you have the domestic theater that Trump has to handle as well, which many would argue was the whole point of the ceasefire. Ceasefire was for the purpose of calming the markets, the oil markets, to bring gas prices down, relieve pain at the pump, all the while rearm in the Gulf region. And that's true, and that's great. I just kind of skipped over that part. We could talk about that later on. Iran, on the other hand, is betting everything on dragging this conflict out past the midterms, right? They're not stupid. They want the Democrats to retake the House. They want Democrats to cut off war funding entirely. And in many respects, if they're really dug down, they're hoping for a friendlier administration to arrive in Washington by 2028. So I guess they're hoping Kamala wins or Gavin wins or AOC wins. Good luck with that. But so they're just trying to basically survive this bombardment. But Hansen points out something very crucial here, and I think this is really cool in terms of who has the leverage. Trump, in radical contrast to Iran, Trump is sitting on a genuinely strong economy. The economic numbers are very good right now. Low inflation, unemployment sitting at near 4%, solid GDP growth, very strong stock market. All of that is giving him very real confidence that he's going to be able to defy the historical pattern where the party in power almost always ends up losing seats to the tune of 30 or 40 seats in every election except for 3, every midterm election except for 3 in the last century. Trump is also looking at poll numbers that show that the MAGA faithful are 100% behind him. They trust him. Republicans in general are 100% behind us, as it were. They trust him. And most people recognize, yeah, the pain at the pump sucks, but the economy as a whole is doing pretty darn well. And so given that, given what we've seen thus far with Trump's 3D chessboard, here's what this final phase appears to look like in practice. First, Trump is, and we're already seeing it, is going to intensify strikes for 1 or 2 more weeks on the remaining conventional military targets, missile factories, launchers, drone fields, whatever's left of Iran's Mosquito fleet used to mine and harass the Strait. That's all going to get wiped out. It largely is. If Iran still refuses to concede after that, if the more conciliatory faction cannot get control, which they probably won't, let's be honest, right? Given, if past is precedent, given the nature of the factional leadership, it's the IRGC, the hardliners are going to hold on. Well, then Trump is going to escalate the military theater further to dual-use targets. So these are the targets like infrastructure, technology, bridges, power grids that serve both, civilian and military purposes simultaneously. When a fire starts, the last thing you want to be doing is scrambling for some complicated solution. And that's exactly what I want to tell you about the Sierra Madre fire blanket. If you're looking for a simple, practical way to add another layer of protection for your home, your vehicle, and the people you love most, check out the Sierra Madre Fire Blanket today. It's a small thing to keep on hand, but in the moment you need it, it can make all the difference. Click the link below to get yours today. He's going to go after dual-use targets. He's going to go after. He's going to headhunt. He's going to go after the leadership that's still in there, take them out. And he's going to go after the enriched uranium. He's going to use B-2 bombers, blowing up suspected enriched uranium sites, key bridges, power grid infrastructures, you name it, basically rendering Iran as a society totally and completely inert. Their military would be gone. Their infrastructure would be gone. Their economy would be in tatters. By the way, as it already basically is. And then Iran, as a functional actor in the region, will effectively cease to exist. Trump has been trying to avoid this. He's wanted to go full Venezuela on these guys. Yeah, he wanted the head gone and then the remaining regime to play ball. And he thought he could dangle the carrot of reintegrating their oil into the global market, remove sanctions, start making them tons of money while they played ball, while they said, oh, yeah, okay, go ahead. We'll give up our uranium. We'll give up our long-range ballistic missiles. And yeah, we'll play ball. Maybe we'll even join the Abraham Accord, that kind of stuff. And that didn't happen. Just simply didn't happen. And in many ways, scholars have argued it can't happen because the moment the Iranian people see the regime giving up their entire ideological legitimacy, which is to destroy the great Satan, they were ordained by God to take on the West. That's their entire ideological legitimacy. That's why they've aligned so well with Beijing or Moscow and the like. If that's the case, then the people are like, well, then we don't need you. You're the whole basis of your legitimation is a lie. So in many ways, they've got no choice. They've got to go full Armageddon here for themselves, their own limited Armageddon. And so that's most likely what's going to happen is over the next 2 weeks, we're going to see U.S. forces obliterate militarily, socially, infrastructurally, the Iranian regime. And then Trump will declare Iran militarily inert. He will declare their nuclear capabilities wiped out once and for all. And he will formally hand off long-term Strait of Hormuz security to the Gulf allies themselves, who already field roughly 600 frontline combat aircraft collectively, with only limited American naval backup required going forward from that point on. So this is where the Abraham Accords security architecture comes into play. It's already there. It's already ready to go. It's the combination of Israeli muscle and Arab money, which provides the overall peace and prosperity architecture for the region for the foreseeable future. But the Iranian proxy network was its chief impediment. It's the Iranian proxy, Iran and its proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, that had to be eliminated or at least deterred in order for that architecture to start to build. And that Israeli muscle is key. And it's already being recognized here. Iran has been striking Gulf Arab states relentlessly. Iran has been hitting Oman. Again, it's limited skirmishes, nothing compared to the first couple of weeks of the war. So it clearly demonstrates their missile depletion. But they have been hitting Oman. They've been hitting the UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. Interestingly, they haven't been hitting Israel. They've even used, by the way, Houthi missiles of late against the Saudis directly. But they have notably avoided striking Israel throughout this entire renewed phase. Why? That's very interesting. They certainly didn't avoid it at the beginning, because Israel has fully restored its munition stockpiles after the earlier fighting. It's deeply penetrated IRGC intelligence networks at every level. And it has made it absolutely unmistakable that any strike on Israeli soil will result in the immediate and direct targeting of mid-tier Iranian leadership figures by name. That gang is overwhelming deterrence in its purest form, and Tehran knows it all too well. They got their hands full with U.S. forces right now. The last thing they need is to bring in Israeli forces on top of that. But unfortunately for them, given the architecture of the Abraham Accords, Israeli muscle and Arab money, it looks like they're going to get exactly that. So Hansen's ultimate bottom line here, and I think this lines up perfectly with everything that we've been walking through together with Trump's 3D chess, is that Trump likely has somewhere between 1 and 2 more weeks to finish off Iran's remaining conventional military capability, followed, of course, by a dual-use targeting phase against nuclear-adjacent infrastructure and the like, before then turning his full attention back home to the economy, heading into the critical midterm elections, having handed over the Middle Eastern regional security architecture to the Abraham Accords, so that from now on, they can build the Riviera of the Middle East. I mean, that's how the Abraham Accords really started in the end, is the promise of creating, turning Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East, bringing in massive international investment and economic prosperity. And that would, in effect, rebuild the infrastructure while destroying the radical jihadist ideology that's festered there. So that looks like where we're going. It looks like Trump is going to have to go where he did not want to go, but was always willing to go. And that is basically obliterate Iran. Obliterate Iran's ability to project power completely and totally, rendering it inert, and thereby enabling it to be, enabling the custodial significance then for the Abraham Accords, so they can oversee a very pacified Iran in their pursuit of prosperity and progress and peace in the Middle Eastern region. But make absolutely no mistake about this. The option of another direct strike on Iran's deeply buried underground nuclear sites, the very same strike we saw carried out last summer in June, is fully and firmly on the table if the regime continues to refuse to let their nuclear program die once and for all. So 13 nights of relentless bombing, a B-1 strategic bomber flying live combat missions straight from British soil for the very first time in this renewed campaign. Reports of the Quds force commander himself being taken out. 3 entire theaters of pressure, military, economic, and diplomatic, all closing in on Tehran simultaneously and reinforcing one another by literally the hour. And a major military historian predicting that we may be as little as 1, 2, 3 weeks away from watching Trump formally declare this regime militarily, economically, and nuclearly, if that's a term, finished once and for all, and then turn the entire region over to a new U.S.-based Abraham Accords alliance. So, gang, we are watching the final chapter of the Islamic Republic being written in real time, right in front of our very eyes, with a new American civilizationalist-centered world rising from the ashes.